Yeah, so thank you for coming, Kenny. For people who don't know about what you do, what is it that you do?
So I fly commercial drones for a living, so cameras in the sky, if you like. Sometimes it's quite a technical and highly governed legislative world, but it's good fun. Yeah, we get up and take pictures of all, from festivals to parties to boring sort of roof surveys, all sorts of things that we can do.
What drew you to drones?
Well, actually, like quite a few colleagues of mine, with the over the last 10, 15 years, you get the small drones coming in from China and Korea, and the kids were getting them for Christmas and all of that. And gradually they were getting a little bit bigger and more sophisticated. And then chatting to people and in my own work meant that I was stopping and starting, so it was time to review and speaking to the wider network. It's like, well, I know people that do that for a living. I'm thinking, oh, hang on a second. Be an idea, you never know. Yeah. And I just kind of drifted into it like that. And I bought a franchise, which meant I had branding and so on. So that helped me get the web page up straight away, and all the business cards and the first drone and the training. You got to sit exams, which is quite scary. When you get to a certain age, you're like, oh my God, I need to do exams, which is written and also practical, actually flying exams. So yeah, it's quite scary, but yeah, you try and make it as fun as you can.
It's a bit like a driving test. It feels like just written in the theory.
Yeah. And then and I was it was sort of February time, and you've got your thumbs on the control, and your thumbs are freezing cold, and the drone's giving it a large. And you're supposed to be then doing this beautiful pattern, you see.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because he'll tell you to do like a figure of 8, and it has to sit on the level and all of that. So, and your thumbs are, not only are you nervous, but your thumbs are freezing cold.
It's funny, isn't it, having to resit exams as adults is a weird feeling. I remember when I did my coaching badges.
Particularly pleasant.
No, it's super stressful. But it's but obviously, like you sound like you really enjoy it. Obviously, it's going well. I've seen your work. It's beautiful. Yeah. I'm always interested. So, like, obviously, most people are familiar with photography and videos that we can all do on our phone, and we've all had photo shoots. For you, what is it that makes drone footage, or drone photography really stand out?
So I think it's the whole dynamic of it, getting something up in the air, and it's doing something that normal photographers simply can't do.
Yeah,
it's getting up there, and even like it could be a boring building, not very exciting, like an old horrible commercial office building from the 70s. But if they're trying to promote it, to rent it out or sell it, whatever, we can fly through the windows, through the doors, up and round, and show the facilities that the amenities that are around about the building as well, in a hopefully quite an engaging way, even although the subject matter isn't overly exciting, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I think it's seeing something from a different angle makes a massive difference. I remember when I go to friends' houses, and if they'd had photography done from the air, you do genuinely kind of like, it's a real novelty, even though you've been to their house loads of times. Just seeing it from that perspective, you really appreciate it.
And some of it's so lovely. I mean, these old country houses and hotels, getting up, even just like 100 feet. Not we're legislated, we can only go as high as 400 feet, but even just like 100, 150 feet up, looking down, maybe a river in the background. I mean, it's instantly gorgeous.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that with a normal photographer. You just can't.
No.
So that's the uniqueness of the drone, which sounds really obvious, but we're in the air, and some of the views that you can get from that are really appealing to advertisers, hotel, whatever.
It always looks great, to be fair. Like, any drone shots they always look better. They just seem a bit more cinematic, and just they're just, as you say, providing a whole new angle.
And the nighttime shots and the speeded up versions and so on, you see all the lights in the cities. You've seen it on TV with the cars all going really fast, and the clouds all blowing. We can do all that stuff. But I mean, even if you just think of any city, could be anywhere, even your hometown or whatever, getting a drone up at night time and just looking over. I mean, it's a spectacular thing. And you just can't do that with a guy. No matter how good the photographer is, he can't be 150 feet up. So that's what we thrive on.
And the quality of the photos is just as good. I mean, I know that, as you said, when you first got, the technology was coming in, it wasn't quite as good. But with a drone, the photos are pin sharp as well, aren't they?
Absolutely. So even the smallest drone that I use, it's still full 4K footage, which is what they use in the film industry. They are upping the ante on that, and I know that there's an 8K drone out there, which is like amazing. But I mean, if you think about the standard HD, like when you're watching like a Netflix movie, that's the standard that these drones can
Wow.
capture images at, which is fabulous. It makes us look good. We're just a flyer, right? It makes us look good.
Do you wear goggles when you fly those? Have you tried doing that as well?
No, we don't know. We have. Funny enough, you're not really allowed to. The part of the governance around it is when you've got a drone up, it has to be within, they call it visual line of sight, and that's without any visual aid, so without any binoculars or anything. You have to always be able to see the drone.
Okay.
It's just a health and safety thing.
Yeah.
So we always have to be able to see it. So that's without any sort of assistance.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen people wear headsets connected to the drone so they can.
Oh no, well that's a different thing. A lot of the time when they use that, it's for indoor stuff.
Yes.
So they'll fly indoors through a building and whatnot. It's all that.
So like racing, isn't it? Like around a course, it seems to be.
Yeah. It's quite a skill in itself, because you're relying in the images that you get in the goggles to stop you basically crashing into things.
Yeah.
So you're totally dependent. Normally you would do it as a two, so you would have an observer to say, look, you're flying towards the wall or whatever. You know?
Yes.
Because it is quite kind of scary in a way. You're totally reliant on what you see in here, as opposed to what's going on in the real world, if you like.
Yeah, that throws you off.
It's quite scary.
Yeah. So for businesses thinking of investing in sort of drone photography or drone footage, like when's sort of, in your opinion, when's the time for them to do that? I mean, like obviously any time, but when would you recommend maybe events, or where they're getting a new website, or?
Yeah, I mean, websites are a constant, and there's all sorts of things that we can do with that. Even something, an example would be in a traffic management company. So I was out, in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, up on the A40. They block off the road, and they had all their trucks out, and all the tractors and all the yellow flashing lights in the dark.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite spectacular to see that from there, and rising up slowly and looking over into London. They've got that in the front of their website. So you might think, oh God, a traffic management company, how can you make that exciting, right? So it's just guys out on the road. But actually, at night time and all that lighting and what you can take in the surround, it makes it completely different from taking pictures on the ground. Yeah. And they've still got it now on the front of their website.
Imagine, and I imagine there is drone envy between them and their rivals, because obviously, like, if you're into that and that's your shot, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? It's kind of, as you say, you're able to bring something to what you would perceive as quite mundane and something you wouldn't normally pay attention to.
Exactly.
You see it.
And the whole point is, regardless of anything else, the subject matter, the genre or whatever, is to be engaging. It's that, and the skill is then, or the art and skill is how do you do that? No matter what you're looking at, how do you make it as engaging as possible? And the length of the video, it's going to be longer on a website because you've got a little captured audience, because presumably someone's went into your website for a reason, so they're more likely to stay for a bit longer. Whereas on social media, it's like bam, bam, 10, 15 seconds. So again, that's the big challenge, getting your subject matter interesting in a very short period of time.
And how do you handle that? Do you have storytelling, planning, or how does it work?
Well, it's I guess it's back to the client really. What do they want to see? So we'll have 40, 45 minutes worth of footage. So how do you want to crunch that down? Yeah. So into snippets from that sequence, or do you want a couple of little sequences joined together just to show different aspects of whatever the subject is? So that's what we do. But it's it's a skillful thing, not having it too long or too short. Yeah. The whole thing is to get people thinking about what you're actually showing. Just the same as any photograph. How do you make that engaging? If you think back to these famous photographers in the past, taking the movie stars or the football players, it's only one shot, right? Yeah. But some of these photographs are worth like millions. The question is why? And it's because it's engaging. You can feel something from that photograph, like, you know, George Best, you know, either, or, you know, glass of champagne or whatever it might be, or playing football, he was better at playing football than drinking champagne, believe it or not. But there's something there, and you're engaged in it, and that's just one photograph, one shot. So we, with the drones, have got that opportunity because we've got much more than just one shot.
Yeah.
So you could argue that it's easier to get that engagement. That's the key, absolutely key.
Well, I guess the fortunate thing is the footage is engaging in itself. So even if it complements and is dovetailed in with other footage, it's a really great opening and finishing shot, isn't it? That kind of aerial view. I'm interested because I guess when you're doing a drone shoot, you're thinking very differently to the client. What I'm intrigued in is the different types of jobs you would get, from quite practical, functional kind of identifying, so like if you're doing a survey of a roof, to something actually quite emotional where you're following like an event, like a celebration or a festival, and you want to capture all of that. Did you recce the location before you go? How do you think, because you're thinking 3D. I remember you told me about, you did some wonderful photos for an architect, and it was like you would rise up a certain level to get the background in, and then they could drop in like the sort of up-to-date graphics of what the property would look like. Yeah. How do you handle all that? Because these are complexities I wouldn't consider. I wouldn't consider the narrative element of where does this sit within what we're trying to do. There's so much.
Yeah, there is a lot. So if you we do so pre-flight planning and risk assessment. So we can look on, we can use Google Maps. It's no fancy software or anything like that. On Google Maps with a postcode, zoom in. Are there, you know, railways, trees, farms, high buildings, prisons, electricity centres, and so on. So these all have restrictions around them. But it's not just so much the restrictions, because we can get permission to fly still anyway. But it's more what are the risks in the area that you need to be conscious of. So we see that first, and then when we go on site, we're already familiar with what's around. Because obviously when you're on the ground, you can't see much. Like, it could be a beautiful church, but you can't see, you know, particularly far. So we've already looked at it from the air, if you like. Like I say, it's just Google Maps. So we know what's around us, and then we do a site risk assessment as well, so that we can see it live. So on Google Maps, you might not see the electricity cables going across. So we have to be conscious of that, obviously, because we're going to fly into them, and they're not that easy to see either. Or next to a railway, we need permission to fly over railways, and if there's people around, and you know, there might not be a. I remember on one job it was like a beautiful church, and there was no one around. It was cordoned off, but there was a school nearby, and you know, the kids come out at lunchtime and all that. So we have to be careful with the size of drone that we use if there's going to be people around. So people, traffic, other obstacles and restricted zones and all that. So we there's a lot of planning and risk assessment that goes into the sort of pre-flight and on-site surveys, and then when we actually. The theory being, when we actually put the drone up into the air, we're ready.
Yes.
We know what's around us. We know what's going on. We can have observers watching in case there's, you know, a minibus of old ladies turns up and they're coming over and asking you what you're doing, and you're trying to concentrate and stuff. We've got the high-vis vest, but we've got a sense of what's around us. So when we put the drone up, there's no surprises.
Yes.
That's the secret.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess... you touched on it there, but permissions to fly, and a big one would have been, obviously, you've mentioned it before, but in Windsor, people would have, you know, they'd be like, well, can you do it because of the castle? I'm surely that's very restrictive.
Yeah, well, we're smiling because I talk about it a lot, because it's important for me, because there is an impact to my business, because there's signs up actually around the castle, no drones. So people, I'll read this, and even people that live in Windsor, and some people have the opinion that you just can't fly drones in Windsor, but it's not true. Yes, there's a restriction around the castle, but I can apply to the Civil Aviation Authority. They have my credentials because I sat the exams, and they'll then send it in the castle. In the castle example, it's to the police, and they say, yep, that's fine. So they'll come back to me and say, right, Kenny, approved between 11 and 12 o'clock on Thursday morning. If you can just phone us before you go up and phone us when you're down, we're done. Yeah. So there's, and it's the admin isn't actually all that bad, and even dealing with somewhere like the Civil Aviation Authority. When I first started doing this, I thought it was going to be like a nightmare. But it's only usually about maybe 3 days or so turnaround to get your approvals. So it's not bad. So I have to pitch in with my customers and say, look, I look at the areas. I say, look, we're going to need, this is a restricted area, helicopter flight pass or whatever. I need to apply for permission. So it's going to take us, 3 or 4 days. And sometimes I lose business. There was an advertising hoarding company. A lot of them are electronic nowadays, as opposed to the paste. It used to be blue paste. Beautiful big electronic board, full colour and all. They look great from the air. Yeah. But this particular company had only paid to advertise for 3 days, and this was the Thursday, so their adverts were going to be up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then that was it, because you only pay for your time, just like it. So unfortunately, I couldn't do it. Because I couldn't get permission in time. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often, but it happens from time to time because obviously the customer doesn't realise you're going to need to get permission, and they're just on it. They want it done, like most customers do. Yeah. But yeah, we can't do that without the right permissions.
And when it comes to sort of, as you say, you take care of the planning, all the sort of logistics and permits and everything. Obviously, people think that when they want drone footage, they're very excited to get it. What are the most obvious mistakes that people might make before they kind of hire someone like you, or how can you help them?
Well, I think it's like most situations, you're having to manage expectations. Yeah. So in my world, one of the classics is people love the drone going upstairs. Yeah. People just love it. But if you stop for a second and look at the footage, it's just like someone, walking upstairs. But office buildings or whatever it might be, even in big houses, it's slightly different. If you've got a stunning big, spiral staircase, yes, of course, then that's fine. Yeah, it's going to look good. But if you're talking about an office building and you've just got bog standard stairs going like that, customers love the idea. I want to get a drone going upstairs and get to the top, turn around and come back down again. And I said, well, yeah, we can do a bit of that. But first of all, you can do that with a normal camera. You can even do it with your phone. You don't need a drone to do that. No. Plus, in that confined space, it might interfere with the satellite signals and the drone will be bouncing off the walls and so on. But most importantly, it's actually not very exciting for the viewer. Yes. But people in their heads, and I actually get this all the time, it's kind of hilarious. They love the idea of going up and down stairs. How weird. Yeah, but it's boring. Right? Yes, that's the thing. If you're trying to sell a building and you see a picture of someone going up and down the stairs, like, so what? So it's kind of hilarious in some ways. Yeah, because also they're doing. You have to reel them back in again. Yeah, so it's like you say, well, that is a good idea. Well, let's just put a little snippet of that, and if that's what you really want, flying in the front door. Yeah, go up the stairs. Well, we can go up a little bit, but let's show the building off maybe a little bit better. You mentioned it earlier, but when you have this kind of footage on a website and on social media, it just elevates the brand. I know that. Can you speak to a bit kind of what drone footage and drone photography can do for elevating the perception of a brand and making it feel more premium and I think it's still back to the whole engagement piece. Big companies pay absolute fortunes, as you know, to get their brand out there. And how do they make it, exciting? If you look at Coca-Cola, the way that it's sign written, it's been the same for 120 years or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, and so I suppose it's making it almost dynamic rather than just like the normal photography. It's so if you take Coca-Cola as an example, maybe flying around their site, it's almost like you're trying to bring it to life, and that's what branding people quite like, because a brand that's alive is a good thing, right? And the drones can help do that, spinning around and up and down and far away and zooming in. Yeah, it's just the dynamic of it, really. I think that they like. Yeah, I'm a big believer in. You need something different to capture people's attention, but you also want something familiar to put them at ease, and it's a tricky balance in a way. And as you said, like the drone footage, it's something you already know, but you're seeing it from a different angle. I think it does that beautifully. And like you say, it's kind of if you get the right angle and the right shot, you don't need to say anything. It just looks wonderful on a website. It's very kind of. I always feel
it makes, particularly if you're like a sort of a posh hotel or something and you've got a great country garden coming up, it just looks fantastic. It's very evocative, it's very seductive. If you think, well, I really want to stay there, it looks
exactly,
amazing.
it's drawing people in, and even with some of the country houses that might be converted into offices, so not very, not luxurious or anything like that, just nice maybe offices. You know, exactly that. So coming in, you know, that you can get the drone coming up the driveway through the trees and having a look around the building and gradually going higher. One of them I did was to pivot around at the top and look over to the Ascot racecourse. So you're showing the potential of the surrounding area as well as the building itself. Yeah.
I think there's probably also something to do with the way movies are shot. There's the end shot of a movie is always a kind of pulling away shot, isn't it? And it's kind of a nice way to end a little bit of a social media clip, but also that entry, it's setting the tone. And obviously Adolescence was so successful at winning all those awards. I think that really captured people's imaginations of the trickery of almost blending the photography, then the drone, and then back to the video again was wonderfully done.
Used a lot in filming now. Yeah, they've really. They're probably one of the pioneers because otherwise, you know, they'd have to use all sorts of booms or scaffolding or helicopters. Are unbelievably expensive. Yeah, you know, you've seen in the past in the 80s, we used to see the helicopters on TV with the great big cameras on them and all that. Unbelievably expensive, and a drone is a fraction of the price. Fraction. So the film industry were into this. You know, very, very quickly. They realised as long as you've got decent cameras on there, which you can. And some of them even have an external camera, so you've got your normal drone that would have its lens. But in the film industry, sometimes they put a whopping big camera onto it just for amazing picture quality, and off they go. I mean, it's as cheap relative to what they used to do. It's as cheap as chips. Yeah, and you can follow speedboats and fast car driving and all of that stuff dead easy. Put your drone up and just follow. It's so easy as well, and a lot of the risks taken out. You know, if you're flying a helicopter all around the place, you know, you can't. It's quite a dangerous business, you know. Yeah,
I'm wondering here because it would appear to be like depending on how you're using the drone footage, you can enhance lots of different types of businesses. I'd love to know just maybe like 2 or 3 businesses you think that really benefit from some of your expertise. So anything from quite practical, like maybe a surveyor looking at a roof, to doing an event. What would you say would be kind of the top 3 types of businesses you believe can benefit from drone footage?
So I think the estate agents, they love it, especially, not always, but usually with the bigger properties, show off their swimming pools out the back, flying in through the French doors and what have you. So they really can see the benefit to that. Roof surveys, that's a lot of our bread and butter work. It's not particularly exciting because you're not actually taking a pretty picture of a roof. Yeah, you're actually coming. It's technically quite challenging because you've got to come down low onto the roof. So yes, we can zoom in. So we can zoom in with the drone, but the surveyor isn't interested in how pretty, you know, the gorgeous Gothic church might be. Yes. They're interested in whether there's holes in the roof or not. So if that's the pitch of the roof, you're coming down close with the zoom in as well, and just very slowly coming across. So not exciting footage, but that's what surveyors have to see. So that'd be an example where it's not particularly exciting, it's purely practical. Yeah. But it saves them a lot of money again. Scaffolding or hiring a cherry picker, it's very expensive because they don't go up in ladders anymore because they're not allowed to, health and safety and all of that.
God, that really is expensive.
Yeah. It's an expensive business. So surveyors and architects, they've hooked into this quite quickly because you can see. I was talking to a guy I know at British Airways as well. It cost them huge amounts of money to have planes on the ground. Yeah. Planes only make money when they're in the air, right? So, and they were thinking about, is there an idea of taking a drone? Because when there's a lightning strike, then you have to literally get little guys up there walking around with a torch to see if they can see any cracks. Oh, cool. Whereas could you fly a drone up and down with the right quality of imaging and you send it to Seattle or whatever, to Boeing, and they would check it and say, yep, that's fine. And so there's a potentially enormous saving around that, and that's without actually taking the aircraft into the hangar. Yeah, because getting into the hangar takes time, and time costs a lot of money. Yes, you think about a big 380.
It's a lot of effort,
you know,
yeah.
it's like it's almost £1 million a day, and it's like sitting in a hangar. So they need to turn that around quickly, and so I've been in some of the discussions around that, which is quite interesting. But then there's the whole health and safety thing. How do you fly a drone at an airport? So in the hangar, easier because you're in a controlled environment. So if there's a malfunction in the drone, it's not going to fly away across the airport, which is obviously dangerous. So how do you then do it when the aircraft is still sitting out and making it safe enough, basically?
Yeah.
So there's little controls that you can put into the drone, and if it starts to fly away on a malfunction, it'll just drop to avoid it flying over onto the runway. But it's pretty kind of scary stuff, and it would need to be tested to the nth degree, you know.
Yeah. Are there any industries? So I guess what I would be interested to know would be the ideal types of industry you really enjoy working with, and what they need to have thought about before they come to see you, so they're clear on what to expect and to get the maximum out of working with you and doing a drone shoot. So you mentioned earlier, obviously, if you're doing something that's time sensitive, making sure you're giving plenty of notice to you to get necessary applications, license permits, and being aware of the limitations of the technology and how to make the most of it, and maybe being less focused on the stairs. Yeah, it's a case of for me that's the thing I'm interested in, is to make sure that when people are watching this, they're kind of going, okay, I like drone footage, I've been curious about it, so how can I make the most of it? So when Kenny comes, I've got it in my head as like, right, if we get this, this, and this, that's excellent.
No, exactly that. And I am, when I get clients coming through, I said, oh, can we have a quick sort of 10 15-minute call on the phone just so I can understand what your thinking is? And they say, well, it's a hotel in the countryside, just take some pictures and take a video. I say, well, so the challenge for me is getting inside their head, if you like, because they think, well, it's easy, right? It's a beautiful big hotel, just take some pictures. But when you start talking to them, then they start to say, well, actually, there's a great big balcony at the back, and then there's a polo field over on the left-hand side, and there's various bits and pieces that start to come out. So I ask them to storyboard what's in your head and what you think you might actually want to see. Now, that might sound incredibly obvious, but it's amazing how people just say, oh, yeah, just go ahead and take some pictures. I want to know what they want to see. Yeah. And in order to do that, we need that, they call it in the movies, storyboarding. So from start to finish, what do you think you would actually like to see? Yeah. Whether it is coming up the driveway or the driveway is a bit grubby, we'll leave that out. Getting into that level of detail and looking across, are there views across, is that worth looking at or not, and so on. And then coming inside, are we going to do any inside pieces? And you're going to have some branding at the front, or even sometimes some still photographs at the front that lead into a video, and then some still photographs potentially at the end, and then with the branding of their actual brand of hotel, whatever, Hilton at the end. Do they want that, and do they want music added into that as well, depending on what they're going to use it for? So that kind of editorial, and the guys on the railway lines. A kind of railway maintenance company, they wanted like arrows pointing to kind of relatively sort of mundane stuff about how they shored up the embankments. You've seen those big metal things that are stuck into the ground. So they wanted arrows to say, well, we spent a lot of time and money putting them in, so these are the little arrows coming here and arrows coming there. So we can put them in to the video, as well as the branding and the music helps to make it, again, a bit more engaging.
Yeah. And when it comes to what makes a great piece of visual content from your point of view? Have you any scenes in films, or just when you've watched footage and thought, yeah, that looks stunning?
Well, I think it's, when you look at the movies and people like, maybe not everyone, but big explosions and hugely sort of dynamic stuff. I think most people, the James Bond type things, but I think in a general sense, it's back to what we were saying before. It's if that viewer is engaged in what they see and has pleasure from what they see, then that's the job done.
Yes.
So there doesn't have to be, fire and people, blood and guts in the war movies and all that. It's about them being engaged in it and enjoying that moment. That's when your job is done. It's not about a particular, element of excitement, if you like.
Yeah. And what's been your favourite project? Talk us through that.
I've had a few, but I did do a Hindu festival down in Slough last summer. So they came out with these big chariots and all the drums and the singing and the dancing all the way through the park. It was a beautiful. It was too hot, to be honest. Beautiful sunny day, and just watching them do that in a big procession was actually quite good fun. Stills and video, and then at the end, that whole kind of that Hindu community. It was a Saturday, desperate to get back up the road again. No, you have to come and eat with us. You'll offend us if you don't have something to eat. They had a big marquee with all the folks were in there stirring up these big pots of curry and stuff. I said, well, okay, I'll stay for a little while. Half an hour later, I'm still. But that whole kind of experience, given it was a Saturday, you don't always like to work on a Saturday. Just a great all-round experience. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
It's not really like working. I just enjoyed it, And you're lucky to be able to do that from time to time. If you can enjoy what you're doing, then that's, it's not everyone that can do that. So it's a bit of a privilege in some ways.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, it's like a lovely moment to capture. Probably very colourful, very visually stunning as well, and a good curry to finish.
Indeed, marvellous.
So if anyone wants to reach out to work with you, Kenny, where can they find you? What should they be expecting?
So my company's Masters of the Sky. There's a website there, and I'm also a member up at BNI in Windsor. All the details up there. So yeah, I mean I'm based out of Hollyport, which is near Windsor, between Windsor and Maidenhead. So yeah, the website's probably the easiest place. I'm just transitioning into that at the minute, the new website. So yeah, that's where I am.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.